You guys can take your seats now. For a little while, I'm just going to speak to you really quickly on something that I have to practice myself. As many of you know, I do have 3 boys and a girl on the way, and I have trouble doing this. It's on rest. So tonight, if you're taking notes, my title is Rest Assured. And so as I was thinking about tonight, and I was thinking about this whole idea of rest. For the past few months, I've been just thinking of okay, what am I going to talk about? What's the angle that I want to go through? And a few weeks ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she just had her 4th baby, and she's in the thick of it. She is she has a newborn. She has 3 children that she's taking care of. And I was talking to her, and she was like, "Yeah, it's really hard, and I'm exhausted all the time, and I'm up all night, and I'm taking care of the kids all day." And I was like, well, it's your last one, so it's fine. You just enjoy it. It's just a season. And she paused, and she was like, I don't know if this is my last one, which is probably something I would say. And it really just got me thinking about her and a lot of us women, is that we love to carry loads. We have such high capacities. I don't know if we have higher capacities than men, but I think in some terms we do. We have high capacities, and we can lead things really well, and we can carry on so many heavy loads, and a lot of times we don't even realize it. We're juggling home, we're juggling kids sometimes, we're juggling schoolwork, we're juggling so many things, and so many times we don't even realize how depleted we can be. And so as I was reading this, as I was studying this, I wanted to look up some statistics because I wasn't really sure of how everyone was feeling about this. So these are some statistics about women. Statistics show that women are more likely to experience burnout than men, especially working mothers. A survey by LinkedIn found that 74% of women reported being very or somewhat stressed for work-related reasons, compared to 61% of men. 2.5 million working mothers in the U.S. have suffered from burnout since the pandemic. Additionally, 42% of working women say that their jobs have had a negative impact on their mental health over the last 6 months. And this is for the students. I didn't forget about you guys. According to a Gallup poll conducted in March of 2023, 72% of female college students reported feeling high levels of stress and anxiety, in comparison to just 56% of men. There was a lot of studies on stay-at-home moms, but I don't think we need one because we know we're tired. It's pretty obvious. But I think that as we live these lives of just complete depletion, we become restless, and many of us become further depleted more than we even realize. And what ends up happening is that we live each day to the next. We think if I can just get to the weekend, if I can just get my kids to go to school, to go into summer, I can take a break. If I can just be free from this or that, or get that dream job, or make some more money. It's a false hope that we have that we're going to eventually get to. And what I love about King Solomon, he says in Ecclesiastes, he says, all things are wearisome, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor is the ear filled with hearing. More is not bringing us satisfaction, more is not going to be enough. We really believe, we have, a lot of us have these mindsets that I don't need peace for today, I can strive for it. And so I believe that we don't have a working problem, but we have a rest problem. And when we live these restless lives, day in and day out, we're taking care of kids, we're going to our friends' events, we're going to church, we're going to school. The issue is what happens is that no one is getting the best of us, but they're getting the rest of us. And what happens is we don't live a fulfilled life. We don't prioritize our priorities. We normalize exhaustion and glorify productivity. We live guilty even to ask for help. We constantly sacrifice the present for the future. It's an endless cycle of restlessness. And so tonight I just want to ask you, are you so tired that you don't even realize it? Are you so tired that the people around you and the calling that God has over your life is just getting the rest of you, it's getting what's depleted of you? And so I didn't want to come today and just be really discouraging. because we know this. A lot of us know this. But I wanted to remind you and to remind myself that we actually have rest and a supernatural peace available to us today. We don't have to wait until something happens. We don't have to wait till maybe a diagnosis comes back the way we want it to. Because how many of you know life happens? But supernatural peace is just that. It's supernatural. It happens when we least expect it and in the moments that we don't think we can have a supernatural encounter. It's not a natural encounter that we get supernatural peace. It's in these impossible moments that we have a supernatural peace. So I came to remind you that anything less than God will leave us dissatisfied. And restless peace is only found in the presence of Jesus. Rest. I love what St. Augustine, he said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you." And as we dive into this topic, the Bible has so much to say about rest. We can see rest and what God has for his people all traced throughout history. But we see in Genesis, from the very beginning, rest was woven into the creation. God himself rested on the seventh day. And it wasn't because he was tired, but it was to model a holy pattern for us. Rest was not a reward for hard work, but it was actually a built-in part life with God. Genesis 2, before sin entered the world, we see that Adam and Eve, they had like a supernatural rest, that they were with God every day. They were in communion with God. They had true rest. And I think this is so interesting that God created man on the sixth day and he rested on the seventh. So man's first day on earth was a day of rest. We weren't created to work to rest, but we were created to rest so that we can work. And then the curse on humanity came right after. We know the story. It included toil, striving, my least favorite, painful labor. And that's what happens when we choose a life apart from God. Restlessness is the result of a counterfeit life that the enemy offered. And then we fast forward a little bit, and then Jesus enters the scene. And then this is where we find ourselves in this passage of Scripture. Matthew 11:28. Jesus gives us a familiar but deeply radical invitation. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened. I will give you rest, and you will find rest for your souls." And what I love about this is a lot of you, we take naps in here. Who are like my nap takers in here? I love a good nap. I can't really get one as much as I would like, but I love a good nap. But for me, as much as I would like to take naps, they never fully recharge me. I need to rest for a full night. But what I love what Jesus is saying here is he's not giving us a nap rest. He's not giving us oh, you're going to have a vacation rest. But what he's offering is soul level rest in exchange for our weariness. And ultimately, biblical rest, it's not passive. It's not checking out from life, but it's actually checking into God's presence. And here are just a few points that I have on how we can come, how we can be, the invitation that Jesus has for us. First, we're invited to come. He says it in the beginning. "Come to me, all you who are weary." Jesus begins with a powerful invitation. And what I love about this isn't to strong people, but he says those who are weary. Those who are weary. He doesn't ignore our issues. He doesn't say, you have to come to me and leave your regrets and your shame and your bondage. But he says, come to me with everything. Come to me with all the things that you're struggling with, and I will give you rest. So the first step is going to him. And the focus isn't on what you do, but it's actually who you go to. And coming to Jesus isn't just about going to church. I know a lot of us might think that, and church is so essential for our spiritual journey, but coming to church is actually not going to Jesus. Listening to worship is not actually going to Jesus. Small groups are not. These are all really essential things of our spiritual journey, but these things are not coming to Jesus. Coming to Jesus is through daily encounters, getting into the presence of God, talking to him in prayer, choosing to seek him over striving. Rest doesn't begin with striving, but it begins with showing up. And secondly, the second thing that we're invited to do is take my yoke. And we're going to have a picture on the screen here. And he tells us to take his yoke. Really what a yoke is. Guys, I got this picture from ChatGPT. I just learned how to use it. These girls right here taught me how to use it. I had never used it before. And they're like, you can create an image. And I was like, oh, that's so, I made this. So this are two oxen with a yoke. And a yoke really it's a wooden harness placed on two animals. It's usually oxen, and it's what it is it's for them to get together and pull a load together. And in the Bible, when they talk about yoke, it usually refers to submission, partnership, but usually it's referred to a burden that we carry. And when Jesus talks about his yoke, as you can see, he's not like putting his yoke on us, but he's actually telling us to stay step in step with him, that he is going to do the lifting for us. We just have to stay in step with him. And what I think is so powerful to realize is that Jesus, we all know Jesus was a carpenter. How many yokes would he have made in his time? And Jesus, he would have made so many, and he would have known exactly how to craft a yoke fit perfectly for an animal. I can assume that Jesus was a master carpenter, and he would have fit these things custom made to animals. He is the master yoke maker. His yoke isn't generic, it's custom fit for us. And we were never meant to carry the yoke of this world, the yoke of this kingdom. We were meant to carry the yoke that Jesus has for us. And at the cross, Jesus made a great exchange. He took our yoke of fear, of shame, of bondage, regret, giving his light and gentle, restful yoke. And really, but here's the truth. We cannot carry both yokes. Like you saw in the picture, there was just one. We can't carry both yokes, and so many of us, we try to carry both yokes. We try to do it our way. We try to say, God, I'll take your yoke, but I'm also going to still live in fear every day of my life and walk in anxiety. But Jesus isn't telling us that. He's telling us that you don't have to live in that. You can take my light and restful yoke and leave that here with me because I can handle it. You can't carry that on your own. And so today I wanted you to evaluate how this looks in your life. There's a statement that's going to come up on here, and it says, Jesus, today I trade blank for your rest. So as you leave today, what is it that you have to trade for his rest? Is it pride? Comparison, shame, regret? What is it? And really think about this, because you're trading this for peace. You're trading this for rest, for sleep. Like, I know we have sleepless nights. The Bible says that God gives rest to those he loves. He gives sleep to those he loves. We don't have to have sleepless nights worrying, filled with anxiety about what's going to happen tomorrow, because he loves you. You can rest in his presence. And thirdly, we're invited to learn. He says, learn from me. And this is really learning how Jesus lived his life on a day-to-day basis, the things that he did, the habits that he had. And as we do this, you're going to see that Jesus, he operated from a place of rest. He operated from a place of rest, and it's a rest that came with his deep communion with God. He knew God's timing and God's plan, and you don't ever see Jesus panicking. In every situation, Jesus never panicked. And here are two things that we can learn from this. That one, Jesus never responded. Jesus always responded. He never reacted. And this is, I think, it's one of the clearest signs of a restful soul. In every encounter, whether it was a needy crowd or a desperate woman, a challenging Pharisee, Jesus didn't react out of panic. He was never surprised. He never reacted out of panic, but instead he responded with intention, compassion, and authority. And so I believe that reaction is what happens when we're overwhelmed, and response is what flows when we're rooted. Jesus was rooted in love, in truth, in peace, and we can see that all throughout his life. And really, when we evaluate his life, what we may call interruptions, Jesus actually calls them opportunities. So often the things that irritate us, delays, questions, people needing help at the wrong time, sometimes our kids, I guess, were actually the very moments that Jesus leaned into. I think about the story of the woman with the issue of blood, as Jesus was on his way to a really important situation to heal the daughter of Jairus. He was in the crowd, and this woman interrupted him. And many of us would see as her like maybe bothering him or interrupting him or whatever. But Jesus saw this as an opportunity, because Jesus knew that he was going to heal her and heal the daughter. And so Jesus didn't panic. He just responded to her. And so we know that Jesus too wasn't ruled by the urgent, but the eternal. He didn't see people as distractions from his mission. People were the mission. Because he operated from a place of rest. This is the same invitation that God actually gave his people in Exodus. God told his people in Exodus 33, "My presence will go with you." This is a promise that we have. "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." This is a promise that God gives us. As we find ourselves in his presence, just like Jesus did, he will give us a supernatural rest. And so choosing rest, it's not an act of defiance in a world that idolizes hustle. Rest says, I trust God more than my own effort. Rest is actually, it's spiritual warfare in a culture of exhaustion. And lastly, we're invited to find. Jesus tells us to find, we will find rest for our souls. Here's the truth. Our lives are perfectly designed to get the results that we're getting. The patterns that we follow, the habits that we have, the routines we default to, these aren't accidental, but it's often the structure of our lives, the rhythms that we live by that are producing the results. And so I believe that rest is a result of the life that comes to Jesus, takes his yoke and learns his way of life. A few years ago, during the pandemic, it was a really chaotic season for everybody. And I got in the mail this package from a friend that she was sending to a bunch of people. And in the package was this merch and a few other things. And on top was a letter. And it had this verse. And it's the verse we read earlier, but it's actually a different translation. It was Matthew 11:28, the Passion Translation. And it stuck out to me so much. This was 5 years ago, and it just stuck in my mind so much. It says, "Are you carrying a heavy burden? Then come to me. I will refresh your life, for I am your oasis. Simply join your life with mine. Learn my ways, and you'll discover that I am gentle, humble, and easy to please." He's easy to please. We don't have to do a lot. "You will find refreshment and rest in me." This word oasis has stuck out to me because it reminded me in such a weary and chaotic season that Jesus can refresh my soul. And so as we started preparing for tonight and what we were going to do, the theme and everything, I was like, okay, I think it's going to be Oasis. I want to talk about rest and all these things. I was talking to Fran. And Fran's mom is a florist, and we were talking about decorations and flowers and all that. And she was like, "Did you know that the block that they put flowers in that's filled with water, that's actually called an oasis?" And I was like, "Wow, it's so beautiful, such a good symbol of how Jesus is with us." I have here these 2 flowers, and I'm sure you can guess which one is in the oasis. Here, it's just such a symbol